Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, this Glory Days little series we're doing has been absolutely fantastic. You guys are loving it. So we're going to carry it on. This week, it's Lee's turn to talk about one of his real Glory Days, the Feederking final. I think we're going to talk about both Feederking finals, aren't we, Lee? Because you've actually won it twice.
Why would we not, Rob? Why would we not?
If you want to, listen, if you want to cock off, do it in style.
It is Glory Days, plural. So,
so 2 wins, back-to-back Feederking finals, 2018, 2019?
Yeah, 2018, 2019.
Talk us through it. So Southfield Reservoir, a moody Southfield Reservoir. And
right. Well, I mean...
Not much, do they?
No, I mean, it got set up, Rob. This Feederking got set up in 2018. Great event run by Andy Renton and Mick Axon on the res. Now, if you haven't been to Southfield, I'll briefly tell you what it's like. I'll never forget the first time I went to Southfield. I sort of had heard about these bream being caught. And when I turned up there, I just looked at it and thought, well, where do you sit? Because the pegs were all like 12 yards apart and there was just a long, straight concrete bank on a lake. And I just sort of thought to myself, oh, it's not very appealing. Do you know what I mean? It's like a bit like, I don't know where to go. And then somebody sort of said, oh, you want to go in the woods, mate? And I walked up into the woods and I had a brilliant day's fishing. We caught plenty of fish. And this is like 5-6 years ago. And I thought, it's all right. That's all right. But I wouldn't want to match fish here if there's only these few pegs in the woods that's any good. And then once Andy and Mick took over running the matches there, they started running these regular matches along this straight bank. And what really appeals to me, Rob, is as a match angler, and you're a match angler, and a lot of people watching this will be match anglers. I want to fish a match against other people, right? I don't want to just have an end peg pointing away from the lake that's just solid with fish and bag up. Don't get me wrong, it's nice if you draw one of those, but I got really bored of matches where, I feel like I do really well and then the last 2 pegs are just bag up and you think to yourself, well, they're always going to bag up because there's loads of space. But when I used to go on the matches at Thorn and Bloodworm and Jokerfish, it was a straight canal. Everybody had 8 foot in front of them. You could ship your pole back nice. There was, yes, there was different areas, but it was the same set of conditions for everybody. And what really appealed to me once I started fishing a few matches at Southfield was I thought, this is a proper match. We are all 12, 15 yards apart for however long that bank is, a couple of thousand meters.
I always think it's as close as, it's as close as you're going to get to international style fishing in this country because, as you say, everything's so uniform. It's literally set up for match fishing.
Match fishing. For
no
match
uniform.
Fishing. Now, it's really shallow. It's only sort of like, it'll be about 4.5 foot close, and then it sort of just peters out to probably 2.5 foot right on the far bank. And it's really silty. And, obviously a lot of people have been there, so I don't want to dwell too much on that. But I realised quite early on, if you can understand how to fish here, I think you could really be consistent. Now, a lot of people were saying, it's really moody and, some days you get it, some days you don't. And I could see that in the results. I could see that, people would catch nothing and then people would win a match. I could see that was happening. But what excited me about it and what I felt was the big draw was I felt very often when the fish were having a chew and the conditions were right, you could do really well from an area you were in. And Feederking is set up to qualify in the 20 peg area.
So before we go on, let's just, for the people that don't know Feederking, there's 10 qualifiers throughout the year. They're all on Wednesdays. So for a Wednesday match, now the ticket scramble is unbelievable, isn't it? Obviously everyone's scrambling for tickets. They're sold out over and over, time and time again.
If there was 200 pegs, we'd have 200 peg matches. That's how popular it is.
60 pegs in each qualifier, all along the straight bank. So it's all, as fair as the organiser can get it. And then out of those 60 pegs, there's 3 zones of 20 pegs apiece. And the winner of each one of those zones goes through to a final. It's a one-off match, the final, and the winner of the final gets 10 grand. There's prizes going down as well, but the win, everyone wants to win it. It's 10 grand.
More importantly, the Feederking trophy.
Yeah, more importantly.
Feeder King, Rob. That's what I love about it. Right? So you bang right, so when this was set up, I'd actually fished a couple of festivals in the year, and I'd won my section 5 out of 6 times and come second, and I was first and second in the festivals. And I thought, this really suits my style. This suits how I want to fish. And a lot of people at Southfield were filling it in for bream or chucking a big feeder for bream, and I was ducking and diving a little bit. I was prepared to move swims. I was prepared to change feeders, big feeders, little feeders, mix it up, worms, maggots. I was working really hard. And over the course of these couple of festivals and a few open matches that I had managed to win, I thought, this really suits me because you never know how to fish. So I'm going to have a really good chance when there's just 30 people in the final, because one thing that was noticeable at Southfield was, yes, there is definitely better and worse areas, without a doubt. But when you get that 30 people and they have end peg blockers and they put it in the most central sort of 30 pegs, it's very rarely, sometimes it happens, but it's very rarely that you get a 3 or 4 peg area catch 40 pound and everybody else catches nothing. It tends to be a low weight all the way through. And if you can duck and dive for an extra bream, all of a sudden you'll weigh 12, 14 pound from an area where people are weighing 8, and you could win the match. And I really was excited by it. And so when they created the competition, I thought, right, 20 pegs, that's it. I'm going to qualify. Here we go. And I had, on the first year, I had the first 5 matches. I got the first 5 matches because it was popular, but it wasn't as popular as it is now. And Rob, I had the most unbelievable 5 matches. Every time I managed to win 20 pegs, 10 pegs either side, every single time. And every single time I was nowhere near qualifying, because at the other end, there was 20 pound, 15 pound. And I'd won mine with 11, 12 and done really well. And I thought, I'm being really consistent here, but I can't qualify for the final. And it was starting to get on my nerves.
Yeah, I mean, it's fair fishing, but let's get right. It's bream and skimmer fishing. So, as you say, there is going to be pockets of fish, but it's hard fishing, which helps the fairness.
It was massively... I'm not sitting here saying it was fair, because it definitely wasn't. My point is I couldn't qualify. I couldn't qualify for this match, even though I felt like my results were really strong. And I thought, do I need to change something? No, I'll just take the chance, and sooner or later it'll happen for me. And anyway, on the 5th qualifier, I sure enough, I was in the little bit that was a bit better. And I won the match and I qualified. So I was really excited about the final. Now, as the final approaches as well, and something that I really do like about Southfield is it changes. It's almost like a floodplain to control levels. It was built to control levels off the Aaron Calder Canal. Run excess water in and out. And the fish, without a shadow of a doubt, the fish swim in and out of the reservoir. So sometimes you cannot get a bite from a small fish. Sometimes you can't chuck in for roach. And sometimes there's literally no small fish. If it goes round, it'll be a 3-pounder. That's what tends to happen, certainly when it goes cold. Because the final was the first Wednesday in October. It was that transition period where the small fish were weaning out and the big bream were coming in. And the way I was fishing was I was prepared to literally have my rod pulled around by any fish, be it a 10-ounce skimmer, 6-ounce skimmer, or a 3-pound bream.
It's worth pointing out that obviously we've shot a really good video on Southfield and the styles of fishing needed to do well at Southfield. Yes. And how you're talking about fishing now is still very applicable today. And actually it's what we covered in that video. So anyone that's not watched that video, it's well worth looking at the website to look at it. So that covers tactics and everything. So it gives you a feel about Southfield if you've not been there.
The tactics in that video are full on, exactly the tactics that me and you have used to qualify and win there. So it is a brilliant video for the tactics. But talking about the emotions of the day, I drew peg 58, which is towards the top end of the 30 pegs. The end peg was 60, and then they had a blocker on 61. So I was quite happy with that, to be honest, Rob, because it was the peg I'd qualified off. It was the same peg I'd drawn when I qualified, and I thought, you know, that's good. That is, I fancy a chance of from this area. But again, you never know at Southfield. If the Bream would have showed up in the 40s, you're not going to beat the 40s.
There's no features. There's no features. There's no obvious features that we can see. It's just a flat 3.5, 4 foot deep, you know, flat bit of water. There's nothing there. So the fish could be anywhere.
Exactly. And it also matters what other people around you are doing. So if in the 40s there was where the Bream were, if there was 3 or 4 people in that little area, all fishing great big feeders for Bream, they're basically going to share the fish. So they end up not catching like that much, especially if they all suddenly decide to choose the same sort of area to fish. So I had this like policy, and I was so confident in my approach that of basically hopping between 2 or maybe 3 lines and just picking off fish when I could. And after an hour and 45 minutes, I hadn't had a single bite, and nobody at my end had had a bite. And there'd been an odd fish caught in the middle, but the talk was that like 4 or 5 pound was probably winning the match. So I'm still sitting there thinking that's okay. And as happens at Southfield so often, a few fish came into the area. 2 pegs down, caught a fish. A peg to my left, caught a fish. I caught a fish. And all of a sudden, I knew that how I was fishing, now I can start concentrating. And I had this amazing, like probably 2.5 hours where I ended up catching about 21 fish in 2.5 hours. Small skimmers. I had probably 2 or 3 like 3-pounders, a couple of 1.5-pounders, and I just by going off my lines, everybody in my sort of 10 pegs was getting a few bites, but I was the only one sort of catching steady, and all of a sudden your confidence is really building. And the talk was that, you know, people come down saying, what weight have you got? And I said, well, I've got to have 15 pound. I've got to have at least 15 pound, like maybe a little bit more. I don't really know. And there's an hour and a half to go. And at this point, Rob, 8 pound is the next best weight being admitted.
Yeah, but you listen, Lee, you've heard it all before. You've heard it all before having done a match, especially at Southfield. Always got 8 pound. And then he weighs in sort of like 15, 16. Exactly. And I've got to hold my hand up that I've been one of those people, not intentionally, but I've been one of those people where I think, well, I've got about 11 or 12 pounds, and you put 20 pound on the scales.
Yeah.
And I think, as you say, the fish come in and out of the res from the canal. You get different sort of fish. And you're catching all a mixture of sizes. Sometimes it's easy to lose track, isn't it?
Really easy. I mean, I thought about 4. I think at the time I remember saying about 14 or 15 pound, and there's an hour and a half to go, and it's usually a good hour and a half for me as well. Like I always find I seem to keep catching till the end at Southfield. So I was thinking, even 8 pound, even if they're a bit out, maybe I can enjoy this final. I'm going to win. I'm going to win this match, and it's all good. And then 30 minutes went by. I never had a bite. Nobody around me had a bite. Another 30 minutes goes by. I've barely seen a fish caught. Now I'm thinking, actually, this is great. Nobody's catching. So it's not a problem. But at Southfield, you can see all the way along the line, every single angle.
And the way you're looking that way as well, aren't you? You're looking to your left.
Looking that way. So anyway, all of a sudden, I'm seeing like about 15, 20 pegs down, a net going out now and then. And I'm thinking, oh, well, it doesn't, who knows, it might not be. Anyway, talk started coming along that they were catching an odd bream, and Mick Viles, who I was sharing with, was next to, he was just off where the fish were, and he was next to Sean Stockley, who he texts me, Sean's just had a big bream. And I was like, oh, what's he got? And he put, well, he had £8. And I thought, oh. And then he texts me literally a minute later, he's just had another. Now, this is like the worst bit of information you could ever have in a match where you can't get a bite. Because now I'm thinking, well, if he's had 2 big bream, he's got £15 for definite. You know, it's over. You know, like, I'm not getting any bites. I've gone from winning, I've gone from being the Feederking to not getting any bites. Anyway, with about 15 minutes to go, I've had a little indication, and then I caught a skimmer about 12 ounces. And I thought, oh, it's better than nothing. Nobody had had anything, and they blew the whistle. So, of course, all I care about is, has Sean Stockley had any more fish? He's had another with 5 minutes to go, is the text I've got on my phone.
Your only saving grace now is that you're up north, so a bream could be anything from £2 to £5. Whereas if you were down south, a bream would mean £4 plus.
So what's Sean admitting to? Well, Sean's saying he's got anything from 12 to £15. He's not really sure. And I'm thinking, well, I had 14, 15. That skimmer's, I'm definitely 15. But exactly like you're saying, I'm thinking to myself, what if he's got much more? You know, what if he's got much more? I can't. Anyway, as the scales come up, and you're going to have to forgive me now because I can't remember Sean's exact weight, but I think it was around 14 or £15. And to put that into context, nobody else, I think £10 was the next weight. So Sean's had this like standout weight. And I'm thinking, I've got it. I have got it. I know I've got 14 to £15. But then I'm starting to doubt myself. Have I got 14 to £15? You know, like, because I haven't caught anything for 2 hours. Anyway, you know that feeling, Rob, when you pull your net out and you are absolutely sure it's enough? That is exactly what happened on this day. And it doesn't happen very often at all. But I pulled my net out and went, like, this overwhelming, like, it's enough. And sure enough, I had £20, 10 ounce. So I'd actually been guilty of this, I've got 14 or £15 philosophy.
Yeah, you were the underestimator.
Yeah, because I caught them all in a short period of time. And it was, you know, it was great. But anyway, it was an amazing feeling to be the first Feederking. I was absolutely delighted. You know, I felt I'd fished a really nice match, and I felt, you know, I'd sort of fished 10 matches on the venue and done really well. So I was really confident fishing at Southfield. Now, you know, you enjoy that moment, and I must say the lads made it great. And, you know, it's a different thing to some of the other finals like Feeder Masters and Match This and things like that, because it was new and there was loads of great anglers there, but it was all back at the pub. So
yeah, it wasn't seen at that point as like, that's one to tick off the list, because it wasn't seen as that sort of thing. But obviously money talks, and when someone quite high profile does well as well, it lifts the profile of the event and more people want to get involved. So I think it's definitely shifted on.
Yeah, it was a different sort of thing. You know, I went into the pub, you know, everyone have a drink. It was, you know, it was like everybody was there, and I really liked it, and it was great. I was so proud. It's a beautiful trophy, and you know, and you know, like I said, I was in with Mick, and I loved it. It was brilliant. So I really enjoyed that moment, and then it sort of moved on. So now I'm thinking, like, I've got a real chance in this match, because I think a lot of people after that first match, because I didn't fish there every week and I'd only fished a couple of festivals, I think a lot of people hadn't realised the style in which I and a few others were fishing at Southfield. I think a lot of people were still like, you fish for bream, you get your visit, and it's great. And I think a lot of the matches were happening early spring, late autumn, and there was only bream in the venue. So all these other fish were just ignored by everybody, apart from probably me. And I thought, well, this is good. If it stays like this, I'm going to have a real chance of doing well, because I think that everybody's hoping for this glory run of 3-pounders, and I'm just not so sure with the pegging being so tight that it's going to happen. So I fished the following year, the qualifiers came up, and I fished the first qualifier, and I drew peg 31. So just bear in mind that the year before I'd been on 58 to qualify, and I drew 58 to win Feeder Masters, and I drew 31 on the first qualifier, and I actually won the match. I won the match with, I had a really beautiful day, about 26, 27 pound. Dan Webb was with me doing a live feature. It went really amazing, apart from when Dan Webb's brolly got blown into the res and sunk about 30 metres out in front of the...
What was he thinking?
I don't even want to discuss what went through Dan's head that day, but he thought on an exposed bank behind, where it was an absolute gale, that if he just propped his brolly up to give him, you know, a bit of shelter, that'd be great. And what happened is that my bucket started to blow in, and I went like that to grab it, and he thought, oh, I'll be a hero and come and help Lee with his bucket, and just left his brolly at the top of the bank.
So he's obviously brolly followed everything, right?
So it was like, brilliant, well done. Which obviously rumours came around that I had sabotaged Trev's peg next door with my own brolly. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, but it was highly amusing. I managed to get it back after the match. We've like dragged it in with like Bray Direct. It was so funny. But and I felt really sorry for Trev, and he actually did end up qualifying later on in the qualifier, so I was really happy. But then the only match I fished in between was Super League. Now the Super League match, it was red hot, sunny, warm, and to give an idea, it was like you could do really well. I think you had a really good match. Like Will in my team won the match, fishing the same tactics as me, and I just caught nothing. I got linered to death. Phil Ringer was on my right. He came second in the match, and I just couldn't catch anything. And everyone to my left couldn't catch anything. And I started thinking, oh, I don't like this. Don't like this red hot sunshine. And it was a bit of a eureka moment to me. It was like, when it's red hot and sunny, it's a different venue. You can't be thinking that you're just going to keep picking off fish everywhere, because it doesn't work like that. It's almost like I don't know if it is like you basically feed next to nothing and hope that a few fish come to you. And I think that my mentality of the venue changed, Rob, for those two matches. I'd qualified a month before. It was overcast and blowing a gale, hence Dan's brolly, to red hot and sunny. And it made me realise I never fished another match at Southfield for the rest of the year. And all year, I had this horrible feeling in my head of this Super League event where I just got battered. And I thought, like, coming into the final, I've got 1,000 ideas going through my head. And you know, when you just sit down and think, what are you doing? Just fish the same as you fished last year, right? You haven't been to the venue. Feeder Masters was the week before, right? So as we discussed the week before, I've been lucky enough to win Feeder Masters. So I'm already on a massive high. I'm going into this match just thinking, well, just want a decent match, don't you? You know, you just want to enjoy yourself. Now, you were in this match as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I think I drew 37, 38, something like that. And obviously, talk about where you drew for this final.
Well, I drew 31. So I've drawn the same peg that I've qualified from again. Now, not only that, 30, 31, 32, the week before had been one of those dream areas where everybody caught some bream. Now, as it happened, it went up, I think it went up to about 37, 38. The low 30s were dominated by bream, and everybody wanted to draw there at the draw. We thought if we draw in the low 30s, you're good, you know, that is where the winner is going to come from. As always at Southfield, it doesn't always work out like that. And so 31, it's the peg I've been on, that I've qualified on. You're starting to think, well, it's meant to be this, you know, it's going to be great. And it was a complete contrast. It was overcast again, it was windy, and I cast out, and I think either first or second chuck, Rob, I had what at Southfield you'd call a bream. It was probably £2. And, you know, I mean, talk about a total difference. I've drawn what everyone's thinking is the area, and I've got a £2 second cast, and might have even been first cast.
I think it was first cast. So I was obviously I'm facing that way. I can see because you're only whatever 5-6 pegs down. And off the mark like straight away. It was unreal.
Off the mark straight away. Unfortunately, an hour later, we're all sitting there, and it's not this bream mecca that we're expecting. And I think about this time, there was a few fish in your little area all of a sudden, wasn't there? Like,
yeah, it was a little flurry, but I think it was Sean who was to my right, Sean, who was second the year before.
Yeah, Sean Stockley, yeah.
He ended up winning the section. It wasn't a big weight, sort of like £6, but there was a little flurry of fish.
Yeah, only 1 or 2 bites, but this is it. So I've got some great anglers either side, Graham Lewis on my right, and nobody's getting a bite. Everybody's sitting there, and I'm thinking, well, that was a handy first fish, but now we haven't got anything. And I had one of those golden periods again, but it's different because there is clearly no little fish feeding. And rumours are starting to, to gather that there's an odd better fish in the middle, in the 40s. And it's very obvious at this point that, that the 30s aren't this wonderland that we all expected, that we all had dreamed for. And I caught a fish about £1. Then I caught another one about £1.25, something like that. And I thought, well, that's good. I could really do with a big one. And Rob, I set my stopwatch. It was about 7 or 8 minutes, right? I thought, you know, I've just had 2. Just be a bit more patient. And I've gone like that to pick my rod up, and it's just started going round. And I picked up, and it was a big one, like £3.5. And you know, like one of those moments where you think, as soon as you pick it up, it's like, hang on, this is a proper one. Like, this is worth all my other fish together. And you're starting to believe that it might be your day. So,
we're going to talk about something that happened to me when we do the next Glory Day, so the one after this, which is very similar. And it just shows that even when you're having that really good, like you feel like you're on top of it, you still need just that little bit of luck. It's like the sliding doors moment, and you just need that little bit of luck that goes with it. And it might be a tactical thing that every time you try that tactic and you think, well, one day it's going to work, and it just works in the final. It might be that sort of thing. But, you know, it's one of those things where we all know, we sit there and we've got the tip out and you think, I don't know what you do, but sometimes I count it down in my head. I go 10, 9, to force myself to pick up the rod. 9, and sometimes
8, 8.5, 6 3/4.
Just how it is on the day. You know, we don't know what's going on out there. We think we're in control, but we're never fully in control, are we? So
definitely not. So I literally, hang on, unbelievable. So, almost like it's not going to be on because you don't actually think it happened, you know. And so I thought, oh, that's really handy. And again, talk was now, I've probably got 4 fish. So I had about £7, right? At least, maybe £8. And you'll know from being in the match, nobody's caught anything. Like it's not very good. I know that Roger Edmonds got 2. But they are supposed to be £3 a piece. So he's got £6. And then, again, the same sort of thing happened. A quiet hour. Then I picked one off. And then I had this really bizarre run where I never caught 2 in 2 chucks. I caught a fish almost like 30 minutes apart for what seemed like the rest of the day. And this is the key. So there was an hour to go. And it's looking like I'm going to be Feederking. I've got probably, I think I've got about £13. Now it's different to the year before. I've got 8 fish and I can almost tell you their weight. It's not like I've got 20 fish, right? So I'm admitting to 12 to £13. I'm pretty sure that's what I've got. And there's an hour to go. And I thought, I really need to give myself a chance of catching one more bream on this long line. If I catch one more bream, and at the moment, £8 is next best, it's in the bag. So I've come short. And on the day, you'll know, Rob, nobody caught anything short, did they? All the fish were like 50 metres or further. Just remind me what distance you fished.
Yeah, well, I did have a fish short, but I fished 50 metres and I fished my 35 metres that day.
Right, so
my
this is what I mean.
Standard Southfield sort of distances.
But... Absolutely. All the fish were 50, 52, that sort of distance, right? So I thought, I'll have a fish at 30 metres for 15 minutes, knowing I'm not going to get one, and then I'll go back out long, and I'm sure there'll be one waiting for me. So, second chuck at 30 metres, which I've got my beautiful soft rod and everything that I want to catch the bream on, and I've got one out of the blue, just gone round, got one, and it's a 2.5 pounder, lovely fish. Played it in, and I'm thinking, wow, you know, like we're talking now, this is like, I couldn't have written this down. I've done everything perfect now. I'm going to catch one more when I go back out there. It's in the bag. Everything's going to plan. Now, right at this time, there's loads of people on the bank, and Roger Edmonds has had 2 fish in this last hour. So he's up to, I think he's up to 4 fish at this point, but everybody's saying he's got 4 3-pounders. So all of a sudden, I'm a little bit like, he's only a fish away. You know, he's only a fish away from me. If he gets one more fish, I've now got £15. He's going to have £15. So he says, I need to catch this one more. If I get my one more, he's got to catch 2 more. Going back out long, Rob, it was the longest 40 minutes of my fishing life, right? I never had a sign or an indication. And the anglers either side of me who were blanking caught a bream, 2 bream, and the end peg blocker caught 3 bream. He was blanking as well. Gordon Simi was blanking, and he caught 3 bream for £9. And they caught these one in the last 40 minutes, and I never had one. And rumour came down that Roger Edmonds has now got 6 fish.
Well, you know, at that time,
yeah.
Were you still fishing your Bitty and Bobby approach, or were you thinking, right, settle down trying to catch a bream? Or are you just thinking, just want to catch something now?
I just wanted to catch anything, but to be fair, you are right in what you say. So I had a little feeder on, a little like a hex mesh style feeder, and when I looked about, and after the match, I thought these anglers either side of me that have caught nothing all day have fished bigger feeders and positive, and I thought maybe I should have done that last hour. And I might, and as well, Rob, they were waiting a long time. They were waiting 15, 20 minutes. You know, they'd given up because they weren't going to catch. I was not panicking, but I was bitting and bobbing like I do. And I think if I'd have just chucked out and had right, there's 20 minutes left, like this, I'm not winding it in for 20 minutes.
Well, you couldn't have done any worse, could you? Because if you didn't have a bite, doing what you were doing, you couldn't have done any worse.
Exactly. Anyway, right on the whistle, I've heard Roger's got 6 fish. And so I think I've been beaten. But then it comes down that he's probably, they're not 6 3-pounders. They're going to be 6 like 2.5 pounders. He's going to have 14, 15 pound. And I'm thinking, well, I think I've got about that. And on the whistle, I looked along the line and nobody's caught anything in our bit, did they? Like I said, apart from these 2 around here, your bit's been dead for hours. And I've looked along the line. I thought, yeah, brilliant. Right, no more fish. That's great. I've started packing up, and about 90 seconds into packing up, at the corner of my eye, I've seen a net go out. And I'm like, no, it's him, right? And when somebody shuffles one in, right? I've gone. I'm like, I don't believe it. He's had one. Like, he's been playing it, obviously, fine on the whistle. I'm devastated. So I've texted Matt, who was next to him, and said, what's he got? And he put 14 pound. And he said, I rung him and I said, well, he's had one after time. And Matt said, no, it was the bloke next to him.
Oh, right. So it was
all of a sudden, I've gone from like absolutely gutted to thinking, oh, I'm back in it. I've got this chance again. I've got this chance of winning. Anyway, the weigh-in starts. I think £10 is best until Roger weighs in, and he weighs, I think for argument's sake, I think he weighs 15.3 or 15.2, right? So as they're coming down, words come down, they're getting like 3 or 4 pegs away. He's at 15.2, right? And I'm thinking, wow, that's close. But then I've got last year in my mind. Well, last year I thought I had 14 or 15.
Well, you said to me, I haven't got that. I haven't got that. Oh, it's going to be close. I don't think I've got it. I haven't got it. I haven't got it. So there was doubts in your mind.
No, I was doubting it, but I also thought I could be out. I could be out. Like I could be out, and I'm going to just tip £20 on, and it's all going to be fine. I've got 9 fish. Yeah, 6 fish. I've got 9. It's not even a debate. So, the year before when I picked my net out and was absolutely sure that I'd done it, this year I've picked my net out and my heart just absolutely sunk.
I know, yeah. I was there watching it.
Because I've picked out £14 a roach a million times in my life, right? Because it was the bog standard weight of the Staney. And as I've gone, I just thought, oh my God, it's not enough. When we tipped them on the scales go like obviously like that, don't they? And everybody's patting him on the back. You've done it like this.
Because to start with, it looked like you were like an ounce short.
It looked like I was 4 to 6 ounces short, right? But of course,
and then obviously he's like lifted it, and the scales have sort of moved again, haven't they? I don't know whether it was like a gust of wind or just something. I don't know what it was, but the scales moved again, and you went, no, that's more. That is,
yeah.
And then obviously scales.
Of course, I think what happened was, as the fish are poured on and somebody puts the scales on, they're balancing the scales, right, to try to settle your fish, right? So it's not reading true. And it was like this. It wasn't like dead still. And I watched his hands come off, and you get that brief moment before a bream flips. So it went, and exactly what you said, I thought, that's enough. I was like, it's enough. And I looked at Roger and I said to him, it's going to be enough. Like, I didn't want everybody saying well done to him because I could tell. And then they flicked about and all the rest of it. But again, as soon as it settled, you could tell it was there. And I mean, Alan Taylor was on the scales, and I can't fault him because he was.
Well, you can't fault him, no.
But to be fair to him, he waited and he was sure. And he said 15.6. So there it was, like I think it was 2 ounces. Yeah, it might have been 4 ounces.
I think it was 2 ounces, yeah.
It was really, really close. And I was gutted for Roger because he's a lovely, lovely guy. But obviously, all of a sudden, double feed. It's only an event that's happened for 2 years, and I've managed to win it both times. So
superb.
Just amazing. I mean, that feeling is equal to any other win I've had in fishing. That first win was great. The second win was, I felt like disbelief because of how lucky I'd been. Everything went for me that day. You're talking about, in the time before, I was going to be the winner. I fished a good match on a decent peg, and I won. And I really did believe I fished a great match. Second year, I fished a good match, but I've had all the luck you need, because there would have been a dozen people who fished a good match that day, right? But I had all the luck with the way I fished to win the event, and that's how it happens sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, brilliant. Well, another glory day, 2 glory days. Hope you've enjoyed it. We're going to get another one on next week. So until then, cheers, Lee.
Yeah, cheers, Rob. Loved it.